Hello everyone, dear viewers and friends who always show special concern for the fate and sacred sovereignty of our homeland's seas and islands. In recent days, images of a shopping center spanning up to 6,000 square meters being brazenly inaugurated and ribbon-cut on Phu Lam Island, part of Vietnam's Hoang archipelago, have caused undeniable outrage in public opinion. Seeing those images, feelings of pain and anger are unavoidable for any Vietnamese person. However, if we stop at mere anger, we may fall into the psychological trap that the opponent is setting. In reality, the so-called supermarket or commercial street does not serve purely economic purposes. It is a cunning move in the tactic of normalizing occupation, aiming to turn an illegal military invasion into a legitimate civilian entity in the eyes of the international community. Even more dangerously, it comes with warnings laced with the smell of gunpowder from Beijing's scholars targeting Vietnam's island consolidation activities in Truong Sa. So, what lies behind the glamorous facade of that shopping area? And are those threats of an open conflict likely to become reality, or are they just bluffing to intimidate? Most importantly, with its current position and strength, what strategic cards does Vietnam hold to counter these schemes? Do not be discouraged or alarmed. Join us as we delve deeply into analyzing the essence of the matter, to see that our nation's struggle to protect the country is silent but extremely resolute and methodical. But before diving into the detailed content, please don't forget to hit the subscribe button and the bell icon next to it. Every interaction from you is tremendous moral support, helping the channel continue to spread official information and ignite national pride. And now, let's uncover the truth. First, let us revisit China's occupation process in Hoang Sa to understand the true nature of the issue. In 1974, they used force to illegally seize Hoang Sa, a blatant act of aggression trampling international law and Vietnam's sovereignty. At that time, the South Vietnamese forces, who once boasted of being the fourth strongest military in the world, cowardly lost the islands to the enemy, truly foolish and useless, leaving a lasting regret for future generations. Back then, Phu Lam Island was just a grey military outpost, full of guns, bunkers, and stern-faced soldiers, exuding threat and death. But over time, China has gradually changed that face according to an extremely insidious script. Last year, they started opening building materials stores to serve island fortification. In 2023, they brazenly inaugurated a hot pot restaurant for dining, and now, culminating in 2025, they have opened a large commercial complex up to 6,000 square meters, including supermarkets, fast food restaurants, bookstores, and even hair salons fully equipped, like a bustling urban area on the mainland. China well understands that if Hoang Sa remains purely a military base, the world would immediately see the image of an aggressive invader. Constant guns, tanks, and fortresses would draw hatred, vigilance, and condemnation. So they must whitewash it. They must dress Phu Lam Island in a gentle civilian outfit, opening supermarkets and services what for. The main goal is to prove to the world, look, this is a normal city where people live happily, settled and prosperous, shopping bustlingly, not a military camp or zone. They want to turn the illegal, wrongful occupation into everyday life, into a fait accompli. When an irrational act occurs long enough and becomes normal in observers' eyes, people gradually forget its original wrongful, illegal root. This is called the tactic of normalizing the fait accompli, a highly dangerous ploy. That shopping center is no less dangerous than a heavy missile launch pad. Missiles are visible threats that draw condemnation and demands for removal. But a supermarket selling rice, fish sauce, and daily necessities, who would bomb it or sanction it for humanitarian reasons? That is Beijing's cunning, their insidious scheme, using the softness of civilian life to permanently nail down sovereignty, making reclaiming it exponentially harder. Don't think this shopping center sprang up isolated in the middle of the sea. Not at all. It is not a random project. It is the latest piece, completing a massive infrastructure ecosystem that China has illegally built on Phu Lam Island over many years. Let's list what they have constructed on this island, which is Vietnam's flesh and blood. A modern military civilian airport with a 3,000-meter runway capable of handling Boeing 737 landings, convenient for tourists or troops and weapons. A deep-water port for 5,000-ton ships to dock easily. Then post offices, banks, hospitals, schools, libraries, power plants, parks, and now a bustling commercial center. It's more complete and modern than many mainland towns in our country, all under the management of the so-called Sansha city government. They created this monstrous administrative unit to manage both Hoang and Truong to legitimize the occupation, and large-scale civilian infrastructure building is to create legitimacy for that phantom government, deceiving international opinion. But friends, stop complaining and open your minds to think deeper. Don't assume our leaders are idle, indulgent, or cowardly. In this harsh world where big fish eat small fish, facing a giant that is huge, wealthy, and shameless like China, maintaining a cool head for persistent struggle over decades is an art of survival soaked in blood and tears, requiring extraordinary resolve. Today, through this analysis, I will show you how Vietnam is striving day and night to reclaim Hoang Sa. This war is not loud with booming guns, but far more fierce, arduous, and prolonged than what we see on the surface. First, the front that many criticize as useless: diplomacy and law. Every time China builds something or conducts illegal exercises in Hoang Sa, Vietnam's foreign ministry immediately protests and sends diplomatic notes. You say protesting is pointless, they don't listen, they keep doing it, so it's just wasting breath. That's short-term thinking, like market vendors only seeing immediate gains. In international law, there's a crucial principle. Silence means consent. If China builds a supermarket and Vietnam stays silent without protest, 50 or 100 years later, their descendants will pull out records saying, "Back then, when we built on that land, your ancestors had no objections, proving consent." Then it becomes theirs. By default, how to argue then? So we must speak, must condemn strongly, must send continuous notes. Each protest note, each firm sovereignty declaration is like a legal milestone filed with the United Nations. It is ironclad evidence, solid legal basis to affirm, we have never abandoned sovereignty. You are illegally occupying, and we never recognize it. No matter if you build 100 supermarkets or 1,000 airports, they remain stolen property, illegal acts. Look at the Philippines. In 2016, they sued China at the Permanent Court of Arbitration and won. The court declared China's 9-dash line invalid, without legal basis. Though China stubbornly refuses to recognize the ruling, it was a resounding slap in Beijing's face before the world, stripping their legitimacy, turning them into a law contemner. Vietnam is also preparing thick dossiers. Our top international law experts are tirelessly combing historical documents, ancient maps, administrative records from Kings Jia Long and Minh Mang to the Republic of Vietnam era to solidify evidence. We are sharpening the legal knife, preparing thoroughly, waiting for the right moment when the winds shift to strike decisively. Don't underestimate our leaders. Their profundity and foresight are no joke. Patience is the most fearsome virtue of the Vietnamese, proven through thousands of years of building and defending the nation. China's Phu Lam supermarket is built with inanimate concrete and steel. But Vietnam's sovereignty in Hoang Sa seas is built with the flesh and blood of fishermen, brave people. Do you know that despite China's chasing, ramming, looting, even brutal arrests and beatings, thousands of fishing boats from Quang Ngai, Quang Nam, Da Nang, and Binh Dinh still resolutely cling to the Hoang Sa fishing grounds every day and hour? Ignoring dangers, they sail fragile wooden boats against steel-hulled Coast Guard vessels armed to the teeth. Each voyage is a gamble, with death, storms, and enemies. Why do they still go? For livelihood to feed families, yes, but also for something more sacred. The traditional fishing grounds left by ancestors. Each Vietnamese fishing boat with the red flag, with yellow star proudly flying in Hoang Sa, is the most vivid living sovereignty marker. Fishermen's presence there is the strongest affirmation to the enemy. This is our pond, we fish here, what can you do? What does China fear most? Persistent, stubborn Vietnamese presence. They want to turn Hoang Sa into a blank zone without Vietnamese boats, to easily claim historical sovereignty, erasing our traces. But they can't, because our people are tough and resilient. Sink one boat, we build another, and sail out. Arrest some, others continue. The state never leaves fishermen alone, always accompanying them with steel-hulled boat programs, fuel and modern communication support for safe voyages. Fishery and Coast Guard forces patrol day and night to support and protect against aggressive foreign vessels. Though our forces are thin and boats smaller, we have never abandoned the sea, never retreated. This is a silent people's war, at sea extremely tragic and heroic. As long as one Vietnamese casts a net in Hoang Sa is not fully lost. Sovereignty remains in our hands. To reclaim land from thieves, words or law alone won't suffice. Harsh reality demands iron fists, military strength. China dares build islands and open supermarkets because it's strong. Bullying as a big nation with aircraft carriers, nuclear missiles, vast military potential, and the world's second largest economy. Vietnam understands this pain of the weak better than anyone. So for decades, we have quietly built military strength, scrimping to buy weapons. From a poor post-war army, Vietnam's navy now has 6 modern kilo submarines, dubbed ocean black holes elusive. Strategic deterrence, making any fleet wary. Gepard missile frigates, domestically built Molniya fast attack craft with strong firepower. Bastion P coastal missile systems, with supersonic Yakont missiles, carrier killers, fleet nightmares, S-300 PMU-1 for sky defense, Su-30MK, 2 aircraft for sea patrols and airspace control. Many say these are nothing against China's massive fleet, they could overwhelm us. True, in quantity we lose. We can't arms race one for one. But in national defense, it's not about numbers, it's about lethality and elite training. Vietnam's strategy is the hedgehog, or, bluntly, the poisonous shrimp. I can't devour you instantly, but if you swallow me, you'll tear your throat and gut, the price won't be cheap. We build strength for deterrence, making China realize that using force for the rest of Truong Sa or excessive provocation would cost dearly, potentially collapsing their ambitions. Meanwhile, Vietnam relentlessly develops the economy. A rich nation has strong forces, money for big ships, advanced missiles, elite troops, becoming a key global supply chain link. Close ties with the US, Japan, Korea, India is borrowing strength for balance. When major powers' interests intertwine in Vietnam and the East Sea, China must think twice before acting rashly. China is insidious, not only in seizing physical land, but also in stealing history, distorting truth. They open supermarkets, museums, bring tourists to Hoang Sa to brainwash that it's ancient Chinese land, deceiving humanity and their own people. Vietnam counters with a fierce, persistent war of memory. Have you visited the Hoang Sa exhibit in Da Nang? Go once to see thousands of precious documents, maps, artifacts proving Vietnam's undeniable sovereignty from Nguyen dynasty. Royal orders sending Hoang Sa teams to mark and survey to Republic-era sovereignty stones. We digitize everything, post online, publish books, translate into many languages, to spread worldwide, for friends everywhere to know the truth. Domestic education is strongly changing. History textbooks now clearly detail China's 1,974 forceful seizure of Hoang Sa and the 1,988 Gak Ma incident, no more evasion. Truth is exposed. We teach children the pain of lost islands, that the glamorous supermarket is stolen goods, illegal. As long as young generations remember deeply, the flame to reclaim sovereignty never dies. A veteran once told me profoundly, "If my generation can't reclaim it, my children's will. If not, my grandchildren's." Ancestors' land 1,000 years later remains ancestors. Whoever swallows it, try and choke to death. That's the spirit, resilient and unyielding. Losing Hoang Sa is pain, but a bloody lesson to hold Truong Sa at all costs. Why has Vietnam intensely built islands in Truong Sa these years? As analyzed before, we are turning 21 features into impregnable steel fortresses, building sheltered harbors for boats, runways for aircraft, solid bunkers for defense, bringing residents to live, monks to temples for cultural spirituality, teachers to educate children. Vietnam is doing everything so the 1,974 Hoang Sa scenario never repeats in Truong Sa. We affirm sovereignty through effective occupation, construction, and development. China's Phu Lam supermarket is brazen and ridiculous. Vietnam's homes, green gardens, temple bells in Truong Sa are resilient and righteous brilliance. China may seize rocks in Hoang Sa, but never the sea's soul. The East Sea in Vietnamese consciousness is the front yard, home garden, survival space. We strive daily to enrich from the sea, strengthen from the sea, developed blue economy, offshore wind power, oil and gas exploitation, all rooting deeply in the Mother Sea, clinging tightly to sacred sovereignty. So friends, when hearing China opens a supermarket in Fulam, don't be overly sad, discouraged, or irresponsibly curse the state. Anger is necessary as motivation, but must turn into concrete actions. Instead of pointless keyboard ranting, work hard, labor enthusiastically, earn more, pay taxes fully so the state has funds for ships, guns, military modernization, teach children fervent patriotism, shame of lost land so future generations are better, richer, and find ways to reclaim what's lost. World history proves lands occupied centuries still return to original owners through national will. Poland erased from maps 123 years, yet regained independence. Israel lost nation 2,000 years, yet dramatically re-established. Hoang Sa's few decades or century is nothing in national history. China is strong and arrogant now, but one laughs today, another tomorrow. Rise and fall is natural. No empire prospers forever. When it weakens, world changes. That's our golden opportunity. The question is whether we're strong, wise, and patient enough to seize it. Vietnam is like bamboo, flexible and enduring. Strong winds bend us to avoid breaking, preserving forces. But roots grip the earth. Spreading powerfully, no one uproots it. Just wait. Let them open supermarkets, eat hot pot, but remember, eating others' food one day, you'll vomit it with blood. Hoang Sa is Vietnam's flesh and blood, forever, so this truth never changes. While we're worried about end-of-month tuition or rising gas prices, far in Beijing, a self-proclaimed scholar is pointing fingers at the East Sea, specifically at Vietnam. With hostile words, scholar sounds intellectual, but, in their system, scholars and propagandists are often the same tools to broadcast what superiors want heard. This scholar, Wu Shikun, head of a grand-sounding National Institute for South China Sea Studies, said something so brazen it nearly choked on tea. He claimed China cannot remain silent and restrained forever over Vietnam's island building in Trong Sa. When pushed to a limit, simmering tensions will explode into open conflict war. Familiar, right? Like village thugs drunk and threatening neighbors. He says, keep building islands, making homes bigger. We've been silent these years, generous, but don't think we're soft. If we snap, war comes big. Don't blame us for not warning. Hearing it angers, yet amuses. Angry at the thuggish tone scorning international law from a scholar, amusing that in 2025, someone still uses heavenly dynasty, big nation mindset to bully neighbors. To understand this play better, let's dissect what this scholar said and why now, this sensitive time. First, he plays the classic kill chicken scare monkey. Most speech attacks Philippines viciously. Illegal occupation of new features, constant provocation at May, Spratly, and Scarborough. Worst, Philippines allowing US Typhoon missiles long-range reaching southern China provinces, direct security threat. Like a neighbor letting a tattooed thug stay with a super-strong crossbow aimed at your yard anytime. Of course, angry and worried, after ranting at Philippines for satisfaction and showing the world we're furious, no joking, then he glances at Vietnam with a casual but gunpowder-scented threat. He lists Vietnam's crimes like a judge. From October 2021, reclaimed over 5 square kilometers on Trong Sa Islands and rocks, using modern Dutch dredgers to enlarge our land, make it stronger on ancestors' legacy. After listing, he closes with open conflict threat, painting war gloom. Why now raise this loudly? Vietnam's Trong Sa consolidation isn't new ongoing years. Openly. Our land, we improve. What's it to you? Must we ask your permission? Why silent before but raging now? 3 main reasons, each revealing the neighbor's insidious face. First, most bitter. Jealousy over Vietnam's tightening US ties. Recently, many US-Vietnam agreements on trade and security, clearly targeting China's expansion. Like trade evasion controls, China sees us handshaking, smiling with its arch-enemy feels betrayed after years of comrade trade. This threat is psychological retaliation. To scare us, lean too much to US, don't blame us for not holding back. Second, muscle flexing, testing reactions, domestic purposes. Such scholars speak mainly for domestic audience to fool people. China's economy faces hardships, slow growth, real estate bubble burst, bad debts, youth unemployment, lying flat. In unstable society, regime needs tough external image. Heavenly dynasty, still mighty, controlling, quelling chaos everywhere, no one bullies us. Bashing US, threatening Philippines, intimidating Vietnam, easiest to stir extreme nationalism, redirect domestic discontent outward, forget internal woes, also tests reactions. Throws stone into East Sea to see waves. If Vietnamese fish panics or stays calm. If big players like US, Japan, Australia intervene or defend. Classic probing. Third, most insidious. Continue dividing Vietnam from ASEAN by naming us next threat, troublemaker. Create suspicion gap. Make others think China only targets stubborn Vietnam, not our business. Stay silent to avoid trouble. Isolate us as lone thorn in ASEAN eyes. Break regional unity. Classic divide and rule ancestors used millennia, profoundly cunning. Threats sound scary, rhetoric bold, schemes deep. But will they act, or just empty talk for satisfaction? Barking loudly, then stop. Need careful analysis, reality. Threatening is for the legally weak. Acting weighs costs benefits. To launch open conflict, China pays huge prices current leaders may not dare now. First, deadliest. Geopolitical, strategic cost. Attack us, even small sea clash or military provocation, we immediately embrace US for protection. Then not just typhoon in Philippines, maybe in Cam Ranh, Da Nang, China's true nightmare. Want East Sea as US 7th Fleet pond? Want tight military encirclement from Japan, Korea, down Philippines to Vietnam? China pulls countries to counter US encirclement. Why stupidly push 100 million population strategic nation, blocking its seagate into enemy arms? Second, massive economic cost. Mouth threatens war, hands sign deals, money flows. Last year Xi Jinping, state visit to Vietnam, warm handshakes, joint shared future community statement. Chinese goods flood Vietnam, huge trade volume. Billion-dollar infrastructure projects brewing big profits. Contradictory? Everyone loves money, economic interests supreme. Sacrifice gold mine market, consumption hub, gateway to world, and ASEAN for islands and disputes. Not that stupid calculates benefits carefully. Third, most feared. Social, historical cost, Vietnamese national spirit. This nation is unique. Normally, families argue, curse over trivia, regional divides, but foreign invasion touching sacred sovereignty unites as unbreakable bloc. Anti-invasion blood, patriotism in genes, flowing in every citizen's veins. China taught us this over millennia, receiving countless bitter lessons. So many failed invasions forgotten, want another taste? HD 981 Rig 2014. Just one rig in continental shelf sparked nationwide fury. Protests everywhere, sky-high spirit. If now open conflict, shooting Vietnam, they unwittingly ignite maximum national spirit, uniting Vietnamese more than ever, ready to sacrifice all for homeland. They threaten theirs to do, mouth theirs. We build our home, consolidate our country, ours, no one stops. Ancestors see islands by blood, sacred legacy. Not consolidate, guard, strengthen, who for lose it? We build on effectively controlled features, legitimate self-defense, lawful sovereignty right. We don't seize others' islands, invade, provoke causelessly, just hardening frontline against aggressive neighbor, always eyeing illegal 9-line, swallowing whole East Sea. We build not for war, but peace protection, firm sovereignty, true lasting peace based on internal strength, deterrence, not pity or others' restraint. In summary, Wu Shikun's threats may reflect hawkish warlike views in China, but currently mostly psychological warfare, empty intimidation for muscle flexing and diplomatic retaliation, like a big dog barking loudly from afar to scare weak passers-by, not daring to charge and bite, because it knows if it bites wrongly, it'll get beaten badly, broken teeth. Let them threaten, ear in, ear out. We play rise and go, for spirit and fire. Our business we do, our land we hold. When they dare act, shoot for real, then see. I believe then surely 100 million Vietnamese, no old, young, male, female, rich, poor, religion, will rise, as in 4,000 years, glorious building and defending history. Video ends here. Remember, subscribe, like, share strongly for more funds and motivation to buy spiritual cement and steel for brothers in Trong Sa building islands, guarding sea. Goodbye and see you in next updates, where we continue discussing national affairs.